Good evening, everyone. This is Shashwat over here from Design Teenage. Hope you everyone is doing well. And right now, after your NID exam, today we are here to discuss a few questions that one of our student has given the exam, and from her memory, whatever she remembers, we will just try to understand the question pattern and accordingly, what could have been the possible answer of those questions. So we will just go through those questions one by one, and we will just also take an exam review from our student that how the exam went, which are the parts or which are the phases in which she has faced a difficulty in, and if there is a scope of improvement. And after that, we have the dates also, like in the official NID website. You can go and check it out for your upcoming the mains exam. This was your DAT prelims. So the mains exam is going to be there after the results or so. Results will be there approximately after 3 months from now. So nothing to worry about. Just sit tight back and relax and just understand. If you have solved these questions, I hope you also remember some of them. So the most important thing over here is to understand that if you have made a mistake, how to or what mistake you have made, to realize it and to understand that what could have been the correct possible answer to that. Now, see, there are quite a few drawing questions, and there is nothing like right or wrong in a drawing question. Yeah, in terms of your implementation of the drawing, the sketch or the perfection of the sketch can be at different levels. That is one thing. But we always need to understand there is nothing as right or wrong. It always the level, or it always the kind of sketch that you have done in comparison with the other person who has done. And among you both, as far as the examiner, what is better? It is not only in terms of your implementation of the sketching skills, but also at some time you need to understand the concept, the idea, the creativity that you can show, the imagination that you have brought on to your sketch. So the creative ability part also comes over there. So without wasting any time, this will be a very short session for the same. We will just try to discuss all those questions, whatever we have over here today, and then we will definitely wait for the answer key and the results to come out. But this is just an unofficial discussion of the answer key, you can take it as, and like an exam review from the student's perspective. Sarah, are you there? Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so if you can just turn on your video and then we can start the discussion. Am I audible to you properly?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you can first of all tell that how the exam went for you, like just in a few statements, what all did you face, and like as a whole, what was your experience of the NID 2024 entrance exam?
So, one of the difficulties which I faced by solving the mock papers was that I was not able to solve the full paper. But for the exam, I managed to complete the full paper. But like there were some questions where I think from the implementation of the sketching skills, I could have definitely done better. And one question I did do quite well.
No, that's fine. So see, what for you, very particularly for you, what I remember is that the time consumption that you were talking about, right? So that time flexibility was always a problem. Like finishing the mock tests over here or the sample papers that we have discussed, it was like it always went a bit hard for you, and coming up with the time flexibility of that within 3 hours. So in the final exam, also, I guess you could complete the whole paper, but there was a question which understanding which took a lot of time, and hence there was a issue related to a final outcome or a proper implementation of the sketch was not done for one question. I guess that's what we discussed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can just tell what are the questions you remember, like starting from the MCQ part or so, and then once we are done with the questions of MCQ, you can just give me an overview of what do you think about the questions, and like just as a suggestion, like if for your juniors who are preparing for the upcoming year or so, what do you think? What are the sectors they should go through? Like what is your review? Because now you have given the exam, and at this instant point you are someone who can always give a suggestion about that. Okay, anyone studying for preparing for NID 2025, they can go through these sections, so they can be like, they can prepare well, and they can, like, answer any of the questions coming up in the NID MCQ section for the prelims exam. So if you can just tell me what are the questions and what do you think are the sections from when the from where the questions were brought up.
So like firstly from the MCQ part, I don't remember like much questions, but I'll tell you whatever I remember. So there was one question in which the question was like the design of these bullet trains, or like those ones which like go really fast. Uh, so their design, their shape, it was inspired from which animal? So that was one question.
Okay.
And second question was the part of the human eye which controls the amount of light entering in.
Okay.
So
I didn't get the second question. Can you come once again?
the part of the human eye which controls the amount of light entering in.
Okay. So now, see, on a basic sense, many people will tell that themselves, should we study biology and go for the exam? So what do you think, under what section this question comes? Like, what should a student study, or what should, anyone know to answer this question? Under which section you will categorize
Yeah.
it?
So actually, like one need not specifically study biology for this, because like I guess till the 10th standard, whatever syllabus is there, this
This
like it falls
covers.
into it. Yeah,
So we can definitely then consider it under general knowledge, right? Or
yeah.
like, when we are discussing design or stuff, like we have discussed about, most importantly, we have discussed about human anatomy. So like, I guess this is something very simple or very correlated to that. And okay, so before we go into that, can you tell me what's the answer you have given to this question?
So I have answered cornea.
Okay, and that's right, I guess. So there isn't a problem with the same. Now, see, anyone who has gone through till 10th biology, they will know that there are, like, all these different sections in a eye, pupil, cornea, your lens, followed by which your eyelids, eyelashes, or so. And hence, like, there is something. So basically, anything that you are doing till today, or whatever you have done in terms of design, drawing, or so, it is because of your eyes that you can see, and hence you can imagine, or like, irrespective of how you think, what you do, what you implement, without eyes or without the vision, you couldn't have performed any of these. So this is something very correlated to the same, and these kind of questions are always expected. Now there is nothing specific that we can study, or there is nothing specific to go through. There is no such particular syllabus or chapter that we can study for the same. Anyways, we will just keep it aside and move on to what are the other questions you have to share.
So the like one other question which came was like there were concentric circles, or there were like three concentric circles, and they had like some, like they were like rings, and they had like some pattern inside them, and then the like each ring was named like a PQR, and then like down in statements they had given that so and so ring is rotated from clockwise, anti-clockwise, and then there were like three statements, I guess, and then finally we had to like answer from the given options how it will look finally after moving the rings.
Okay, so it's kind of a sequential thing that you need to understand the
Yeah.
pattern and come up with the answer. Okay, anything else from the MCQ section?
Like there was one question in which shapes was used, and it was like given in form of a equation. So there was like a big triangle given one, a plus in the bracket. There was like a thinner, smaller triangle.
Mhm.
Uh, then there was the multiplication sign, and there was like a question mark,
Okay,
and this was equal to. Uh, it was like a star. Okay, so the bigger triangle,
like,
it was
written it or
placed.
drawn it, you can show that page. Like if you have made something of this.
Can you see this?
Yeah, yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah. So we had to like put a number over here.
So number or you had to put a shape over there. I didn't get it.
No, it was a number because the bigger triangle is it is turned upside down, right?
Right.
And those three other triangles, like that's a number.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it now. I can see it. I get it. So, and hence, like, the outcome is that final, like, sketch or the final
Yeah,
one that you see, that is the outcome. To come to that, what, like, you could have multiplied it with. So it's something
yeah.
related to aptitude again. Okay. Anything else that you might have note down?
No, sir. From
Okay.
MCQs, that's all I remember.
So then, like, summing it all up, it should be general GK. It should be, like, I guess, your
It
aptitude
was not
question.
very difficult, the MCQ
Yeah.
section. Like it was,
We will
like
come to that.
ba-
So, like, if you can just tell me what are the topics do you think as a whole that should have been, or like, that should be covered for any student preparing for an ID? Like section wise, just an abrupt idea, I know it cannot be all like very definitive, not at all possible. Neither for me to give you a very definitive idea about that, okay, exactly you study these topics and each and every question is going to come from there, but just an abrupt idea of, or from your point of view, irrespective of what you have studied over here, what we have covered, you tell me, like, what are the topics should be covered in general.
so one is like to recognize the sequence of patterns because I remember like one more question had come in which we had to then like a sequence was given and then another one like the last one we had to recognize that was there and then like basic general knowledge and like uh, s- uh, there was like some give reason questions also like I remembered just now um, it was like in higher like a few statements were given in higher altitudes people find it difficult to breathe then in like high altitudes water boils faster and then in the options different like statements were given like for example one was like the temperature at which a water boils it does not depend on pressure then the temperature at which a water boils depends on pressure and like such different statements were given and we had to choose which are correct ones so this is like give reason thing which is very basic like in the 10th standard syllabus and all it all comes
Yeah, so it's kind of
so there was
reasoning, general aptitude,
yeah
analytical reasoning questions, and apart from that, in general GK, like general knowledge only, I should consider it as a whole. Design principles, elements of design, those are obviously there, and those are elementary learning for you to implement the final drawing and stuff. Yeah, I guess, like, abruptly, if I have to say, that's it: design thinking, design processing, drawing an iteration of a design, and then moving ahead. The drawing part, like what we have discussed over here as well, if I look marks wise, the drawing part actually constitutes 60 to 70% of the marks. So over here, the elementary learning of design process, and starting from the theoretical part, followed by moving into the design or moving into the sketching, drawing skills, not only skill set, the process of, like, creative thinking, bringing an iteration of a design and hence implementing it. And I guess, like, thinking out of the box, the most important thing which examiners do look for, that is where the important or the most amount of learning comes into while preparing for not only NID, like for any of the design career exams. Like till last year, I guess, NATA was kind of excluded from that part. Like after 2019, we had the theoretical part, but the final implementation of sketches and all were not there for the past 20, 21, 22, 24 years actually. Now this year onwards, again, pattern is changed. So again, all this kind of thing will come into over there. Yeah, kind of the approach is more realistic over there. Over here, it's kind of more creative. But always, like, there will be things which will come, or which might be we will be unaware about at a certain point. Two or three things definitely will come, but the thing is that the base or the foundation of those things are always cleared up. and the phase or the foundation of all those things are included in this basic topics that we have already covered. Okay, so now coming to the drawing thing part, like, any drawing questions and stuff you might have noted down, or you remember exactly something like that.
Yes, sir. All the questions I remember of drawing.
So we can discuss them one.
So the first question was, like, I don't remember the full statement, but
No issue.
basically
Just
what
the
it,
idea of what it was will make it.
yeah.
Like, nothing. You don't have to remember exactly what it was from line by line.
So the question was like, potable water is a big issue in mo- mountainous regions. So we had to basically design a water carrying system, which by which people can carry 20 liters of
Water
water.
from the mountain to the
Yeah,
mountains.
yeah.
So it was kind of a
So
product design. You have to design a product which
yeah,
will like have a service or a usage for the people, or like for the citizens or the people staying over there, and it's kind of a utility product design that you had to do. Yeah, so yeah, please.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
So like this together was a 20 marks question. So now in this first part, we had to only sketch the product in detail. So that was for 12 marks. And then the next question was to draw the people using this product. That was for 8 marks. So altogether it was for 20 marks.
Okay, so yeah, I got it. The marks. Can you just repeat those two sections of the questions? Like, what was what?
So first section was only drawing the product in detail,
Okay.
like a water carrying system, and he had even mentioned the quantity, or 20 liters.
Mhm.
And the second section was people actually using it.
Okay, so like a live example of the same.
Yeah.
What was the answer like that you came up with, and like what was your derivation of the answer in the paper? Like if you can just
uh,
explain that, okay, this is what I
yeah,
have done, this is where I have placed what.
yeah. So actually, like, this was the question for which I struggled, because I was not
But
able
still,
to,
like,
you
what
know
you have done, I guess we can discuss about that.
like, I drew something from the houses of the people on the mountains. It was like, something not like a well, but that a thing in the, like, the a bucket, how it goes down and then it brings up the water. So like from their balcony or that kind of a thing, something which can go down and then they can fill the water and then someone can pull it on top.
Okay.
So something
So it's
like
kind
that
of a
I tried.
sequential thing, house to house, it will move on, and
Yeah.
like it will reach the top. Now, see, when I think of a question like this, I will just give you my point of view or my perspective on the same. I can also think of something like if it's a mountainous region, usually, like what happens is that we can think of a ropeway or something like that of a stop present over there, wherein the carriage moves or so. Now, if there is a human like sitting and going towards the downward section from the top of the mountain, the weighing is more, and the section like which wherein the like so usually what happens in a ropeway is people go from top to bottom, or bottom to top also, it like goes, but this is a usual thing I am talking about, or particularly for this product design. So people from the top of the mountain, they go in the ropeway, they do a trekking, climb the mountain, and this is the attraction. Through a ropeway they get down. So if this is the thing, what will happen is that people on the ropeway, like normally if two people also sit in one ropeway and they get down, their weight will be more comparatively, like to a bucket or two buckets of water, or however the water is contained. And the chairs which are, or the sitting ones which are moving towards the upward section, over there water can be filled. So it can be a by process of, like a product wherein there is a source of earning. So it is not something like which is dependent on some other source, because any kind of device you will have to run, it has some sort of cost, manual labor, it has a cost of electricity running or so. So now this is something which is not only taking any cost, like there is the cost of usage is zero, but it is giving you some sort of earning at the same time. It can, like help you or give you some sort of, like, the usage of water, or the necessity of a particular item which is there, that can be supplied. this is something like, which I think can happen. And it can be something, if I talk about without electricity or something like that, yeah, there is a chance, like, considering that we design now, it is very hard to explain it verbally. But this is what creative thinking is all about. There cannot be something like, which is very much possible. If it was possible, no one would have given you the question. Or if it is something already present, we would have a realistic approach. No one is going to ask you that, okay, make such a substance wherein four people can ride, there will be wheels in it or circles in it, and it goes. Then automatically people will start drawing car. They might ask you that, okay, make something wherein you can ride and, like, fly from your house to your school. So this is something unique, or this is something which is not present in like today's life, right? So today's time. So like this can be very the thing wherein the weight of the people start like from the top of the mountain, when they go down this section of the rope, this is placed in such a way that without any electricity itself, automatically the weight brings the people down. And this section of the chair wherein the weight is comparatively much lesser, like almost like divided by 10, that thing automatically goes up with the water. So there is no electricity use, or they, like, this thing is not dependent on, like, any sort of power or something like that. Can happen. Anyways, we will move on to the other question. Tell me, what was the other one that you remember?
So, like in this question, one more thing was that we had to mention the material of which the product is being made.
This is for this like water thing itself.
Yeah.
So there were 3 sections or 2 sections?
No, like the first section in which we had to sketch the product in detail. In that only, we had to like also mention what material was being used.
Okay, now it is not it can, I think it shouldn't be only one material. There can be number of materials starting from, like, metal, wood, or
Yeah,
so that we
materials.
can think about. And it's quite subjective. It's quite dependent upon, like, see, if I have to answer that question, I will be taking some time. I will be giving some iteration, some thinking to it, and then I will be coming up with the idea of this is what it is, and hence on a utility basis, this is what can happen. Now there are certain things, as in okay, what else is being, like, is the utility all about? So let's talk about there is a kind of, like, rope or a wire frame running, so we need to think about that in metal. Okay, now let's talk about the chairs that you are sitting on. It can be of metal, but I think steel will be a more suitable stuff, considering that it will last long without any rusting or so. Next thing is, now, okay, the place where you sit, what can be the best material to be used? It can be wood. There can be plastic paint that can be used to prevent it from, like, like, to give it a longer life, and several other things like that we can think of it. And we can, now we have discussed color psychology, wherein we discussed, or material study we have done, wherein we have discussed emulsion paints, I guess. And then different kinds of paints, those things are available. So now this is again a very creative thing to think about. You can also think of something like cloud. This is my point of view, wherein I am thinking of this very particular product and I am talking about all this. Now what you have thought about house to house, it can be something, or as simple as, like, plastic material also. I'm just, like, giving you an idea. So this might vary from person to person. It is quite subjective. As per as my thinking, I gave this idea or this concept. Or as per as someone else's point of view, it can be again something else. Okay, so now the thing is that for answering any of these questions, the basic way to solve, or the basic ideology behind it is, you should have solved at least quite a good number of similar questions. Like, I'm not talking about carrying 20 liters of water to the top of the mountain. Like, similar questions wherein your mind have to be used in a similar way. So it can be like, design a cage in such a way that you can click pictures without any hassle in the wild, or in, like, in between the forest. You can be put inside the cage and dropped off, and you have all sort of food supplies and stuff, and everything you can do within that space itself. And you can, like, click pictures of wild animals without even, like, without thinking about anything like the weather condition, without thinking about the, like, wind, rain, or any harm from any animals. You can be safe inside that and design a product like that for wildlife photographers. So this kind of questions might come wherein your mind have to think, utilize, your mind have to train, your mind should be trained to think like this, and hence answer the question which comes. We never know what is going to come in the exam. These are very creative things coming out of the mind of one person, or might be like out of several persons, several different questions came up. This is the question that is selected for the final paper. Anyways, let's move on to the next question.
So for the second question, we had to sketch 3 crucial steps in the process of conversion of a raw material into its final product. So, so in this there were 4 sub questions. So one was conversion of potatoes to chips.
Hmm.
So the 3 crucial steps in that. Then bees to honey, mango slash fruit to pickle, beads slash seashells to a necklace.
So
So
you have
that's
to answer all the questions, and wherein you need to show this process of each one of them in how many steps? 2 or 3 steps?
3 crucial steps.
3 crucial steps. So it is as simple as like doing a storyboarding. Students
Yeah.
who are appearing for NIFT or so, they will be doing the same kind of thing. Like in terms of some other thing, or might be few questions might be also related to them. So over here, you need to show in square boxes that okay, these are the steps, or this is how this final thing comes out. Not necessarily a square box. It can be something creative, like as in let's talk about a plant is growing, or something I really cannot think of some question right now at the instant, but it can
Like square box was not mentioned, like only
so it's
one
not required always.
rectangle
It
space
is
was given.
suggestible that you do it in a square box, because it makes it more definitive. That's what I'm talking about. So it if it's tells you about the growth of a plant, or growth of a seed. Let's talk about a seed to a plant. So you can just show, and it will be a reversal process. So it can be a plant which is growing step by step, and the plant itself shows the stages of a seed to from a seed, the plant, then the leaves, then the flower, and like whatever, if it is asked crucial steps, we need to plan it accordingly. And then again the fruit, and from the fruit, like a seed is dropping by. So something like that also can come up. Now over here, this is kind of a storyboarding where you need to show the story like in terms of sketches, one after the other. Okay, what else was there apart from this?
Uh, then the question was recall a space from your home. Um, and for this, they had given the exact space in which we had to draw. Like bottom surface was given, or then like a side wall, and then one more wall.
Okay. And
So
recall and do what over there? Sketch a human
yeah,
figure?
we had to uh, we had to draw any part of our house in that,
Mhm.
but we had to like there were 2 options given that this space is being used by an elderly person, or
Okay.
3 to a 10-year-old child.
So it's
So
the like changing the utility of the space. It was
yeah,
like it is not related. That's why I asked it is related to human anatomy or so. So it's depending upon the
yeah.
utility. Like the same space. Let's talk about one family is staying today, and or the same family tomorrow. Today it's a young couple. They got a child, and like as far as that, they designed the space. Now the child is grown up, and the child is 40 years of age, and they are staying in the same house or the same space. And now the child is again redesigning the space of his room for his parents according to the utility of that very particular person. So if it's an old person, and let's assume they are on a wheelchair, or they cannot always walk up, or so we might change the switchboard spaces. And there can be there will be actually several things to change. There will be you'll definitely have noticed that if there is a kid, or how a kid's room has toys or several other things, not only toys, like in terms of food supplies, in terms of several other things, the utility will be completely changed. If it's an office room, it will not be the same as my bedroom, right? So that is how you need to come up with. It's again a creative thinking of like space, designing a space. It's kind of related to what interior designers do, or what architects do in form of an interior while designing the interior of a house or so. Okay, what else?
So
Yeah,
So it was not like we had to design, we had to recall and sketch a already existing space.
Mhm.
But like we had to there were two options given and we had to tick mark like it's being used by a child or a elderly person. So that was one question. And then
Okay.
under this there was another question that we had to draw one of the objects from this space in detail, which is of course being used by the child or the old person.
Okay, according to your selection of what?
Yeah. And then the third question was that we had to change the object in such a way that it suits the use of the person or whatever, like we think the improvements could
Good.
have been made to the object.
So again, it's
So it
going
was in two
towards
parts.
space as well as product, like the utility of the product design also. Okay, anything else that you remember which we can discuss really quick?
No, so those were
Those were the
those
questions.
were all the questions here.
Yeah. So now, like, I guess I have already talked about what are the sections that we could have, or any student preparing for NID, irrespective of like, over here or from anywhere, whether it's a long term or so, you can always go through these sections. And at the end of the day, what I always tell to each and every student, whether you're preparing for your 10th, 12th, or any entrance exam, at the end of the day, it's always question papers. Like for anyone, like let's assume a person who is being trained in the army, before they are going for an operation they had to be trained with similar circumstances and similar, like things which might happen on field. Until and unless you go through similar circumstances over and over and over again, your reflexes will not be the same. For army personnel, it's the reflection, like reflex of using their gun or using their hand or the weapons, or the thinking over there at that point of time what has to be done. For you, the thinking of your mind to bring up something like as in a sketch, and then your hand to implement it in terms of skill. So at the end of the day, it's all about practice. So I guess that's all from my side. Sarah, you have anything to tell apart from this as a whole for the whole thing, or no, that's it?
No, sir.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, fine then. I guess we will wrap up with this. And what was your review, just in short, like, for the whole exam, what was your review in terms of the preparation or in terms of the final exam? What do you think about the whole stuff?
So like definitely with the given a limitation of time,
Mhm.
the outcome that should have been like more more better. Like I didn't copy, but like just when they were collecting the papers, like I just looked into the papers of other students and the sketches that were there, they were like really precise. Like even in that short period of time, the paper which their answer booklet was really neat, and even in their sketches, they were not all the same. Like they had their own style of sketching, which they had implemented in the paper.
Yeah. Now, what happens is actually you are seeing someone else, and it's always like while answering the question, if you don't know the answer to a question and you ask someone who is sitting behind you, and if he or she tells you an answer, you all, if might be the correct answer, but still, if someone has told you the answer, you will always consider it as correct. So something like that. Though you have answered, when you see someone else, you might feel that okay, mine could have been something better. And it's always like two or three people around you whom you can see at the end of the day, but there are thousands of people who are writing this exam, so we never know what everyone has done. Yeah, but obviously it's all about practice at the end of the day to come up with a final and a really good outcome, or a really good implementation of what you have learned throughout the period and time. I guess that's all, like
Yes, sir.
and what I feel personally is that it always doesn't takes a long time for preparation for any design career. It's just the appropriate start, like a few months at least, like 6 to 7 months of time is required for one set of exam, if you want to give it well, and if you have not thought about it previously that okay, I will go for it, and then like give, if now definitely if it's 6 to 7 months, the amount of effort that you need to put into it, definitely a student preparing for the past 1 year will not have to put that amount of effort, like, regularly. So it's that, but at the end of the day, exam paper practice, and that all will do. So I guess with that, I will wrap up this. So thanks a lot, everyone. And you can like go check out, like if you have missed something in this session, and connect us back if you need any help. Thanks a lot.